Gets open for three. Dagger!
The kick in, here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Welcome into Defeating the Curse. My name is Joe. His name is Stevie. It's a two-man show. We have officially what's the word I'm looking for? Not transgressed. Transitioned?
You probably did some transgressing.
I did. I'm back from Florida. Listen, Florida, those are my people, man. Florida, that's my jam. We did something crazy, Stevie. We drove down to Florida. We drove down, took 12 hours to drive down. We stayed for about 60 hours, I think, in total. And then we packed it right in and drove right back. Got home this morning and got right back to work. It's been a busy, busy weekend for your boy. It's been crazy.
You're on the DeSantis train after being in Florida.
I mean, I just love it down there, man. Like people, like COVID ended like 2.5 years down there. Like nobody gives a shit. Everybody's just living their life. Okay. Like restaurants are open. The beach is fine. Okay. Like, you know, the ocean, the salt kills everything or whatever. The kids had a blast in the pool. I am a sucker for the road trips too. I think you know this from, you know, I guess our
Ocean City.
Our Ocean City days, I guess, a very different type of road trip. But there's something about it, man. Like I know you've got kids too. The traveling and the, you know, when they were younger, the strollers and the diapers and the thing and the cooler and the thing and the other thing and the iPad. It's so much easier. Just jump in the van. They all pass out by like 10 o'clock, and it's just your boy on the road the rest of the way. It was just so easy to do it. I'm literally just listening to podcasts and music by myself. It's perfect. And you get down there, and it's, you know, it's warm and sunny, although it was warm and sunny here. I think it was actually warmer in D.C. than it was in Orlando and Cocoa Beach. But
you don't stop halfway?
Only for fuel and potty. And just we do it.
You did the straight shot.
Yeah, straight shot. We want to stop at some point. At some point, we're going to start stopping. I think when the kids are able to take it in a little bit more. Like right now, it's just you got to get through it as quick as possible. But I mean, you know, I have an affinity for like Savannah. Like that city, like is really near and dear to my heart and my wife's heart too. So we're excited to be able to actually stop there. You know, maybe do a night. You know, see some of our friends there. But for right now, it's just turbo driving straight. It couldn't be easier. Literally 95 south. You know, 800 miles, exit Orlando or exit Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, whatever, and that's it. It's super easy, but I'm tired, man. Like I'm exhausted, but I did get a chance to listen to a ton of stuff, different topics, different shows, and I got to tell you, Stevie, you're the golf guy, right? And without Tiger, golf really doesn't matter, I think, to the masses. But I'm fascinated by this Saudi desert dueling league, thing that's coming, basically taking shape. I mean, Greg Norman, I know him as the Shark, if I'm not mistaken,
Shark.
Right? The line of clothing from JCPenney once upon a time, I think I used to wear back in high school with the little shark, the little thing on the thing. But, you know, I'm fascinated by this. I'm actually fascinated, like, from the business side of it, right? I don't know how closely you're following this, but can the PGA stop professionals that are technically unionized? Because there is a players association, right? There is like the players are bonded in some regard from participating in another league that doesn't compete with the PGA. It's a very interesting little thing. I mean, the only thing I can think of that would be similar is, you know, like WNBA players play in the domestic league here in the States and then go play overseas during the off season in the United States and make a ton more money overseas. And this is kind of how that's shaping up too. You see it with international soccer stars as well, sometimes. But the WNBA is the best analogy I can come up with. Like the stars of the WNBA make whatever they make in the WNBA, but they go overseas and they make double or triple that, you know, in half the time playing in the National League of China or Turkey or whatever, and then they come back, right? And if the PGA players want to do the same, shouldn't they be allowed to? Because they will make so much more money in the Saudi League.
Well, you know, that's your question is, can the PGA stop them? I don't know the answer to that question. They're certainly going to try. And the only way the only thing they have going for them is the tradition, history, and lure of the championships, of the major championships, right? The PGA Championship, the Masters, of course, the US Open, the British Open, things like that. That's all they have, and if a guy like Mickelson, who made some pretty alarming comments, I think we can both agree that they were pretty stupid and pretty
he wants that Saudi money but doesn't want the Saudi smoke, right? Like he doesn't want, like he's taken a half stand with the human rights, like tongue-in-cheek comments that he made, but then on the other hand, like if they pay me, I'll play, right? Like
He admitted to it. I mean, we know that's the status quo for most of these guys, but Mickelson said the quiet part out loud, which is, the stupid part on his part. But I mean, they're going to throw a ton of money at these guys, and clearly it's working. When you hear someone like Phil Mickelson say those things, courses I've heard over there in the Middle East are gorgeous. They're beautiful. Conditions are perfect. I mean, they'll wine and dine these guys. And golf is a sport where, it's funny because prestige is so important, right? To wear that Masters jacket, that's why Tiger, the Jack Nicklaus record of the most Grand Slams, the most majors, like these are huge things. I liken it to, maybe the NBA that doesn't have this mystique of, whatever. If an NBA league in China, which obviously we know China's got their tentacles in the NBA already, but if an NBA league in China threw double the money at LeBron James, he'd go over there. He'd be on the first flight to Beijing. I mean, that's just.
I think the difference though is we see that though, like the CBA does. I mean, Stephon Marbury was an MVP over there, right? After he flamed out of the NBA. The difference here is that you're not trying to grab players on their way out or like in their twilight years, right? International soccer is kind of set up the same way, right? You see a guy like Zlatan, right, like come over, or Beckham come over in the twilight of their career, like towards the end, and they can dominate a domestic league, in the United States, which just competitively doesn't stack up against even an Italian league or whatever. This is different though. Like these guys can still play, like, and they are still playing, right? This is a competing tour as opposed to a competing league, or it's.
So why can't they do both?
Well, the PGA is saying they can't because they're unionized labor and they're under contract to the PGA, right? That they're saying that they're, the way that the PGA is now structured with the players tournament and all that other stuff, like it's a package, right? And the PGA is now taking this hard stance of take it or leave it. The irony though, and I listen, I'm not a golf guy, but I went back and just did a little bit of research. I mean, the World Golf Tour, I think, was like a 1990s initiative, very similar, where basically the Euros and the Americans were like, can we play our own stuff during when these two leagues or when these tours are not in, can we do our own thing? And both the Euro Union and the United States basically said, no, you can't. And then before that, I think there was the Tournament Players Division or something to that effect, where they basically tried to set up like a playoff, but even, I mean, the HBO thing that happened a couple years ago, do you remember that? The Tiger...
Tiger versus Phil.
Tiger versus Phil, right? Like the PGA wasn't thrilled about that either, right? Because it wasn't a PGA thing. They couldn't monetize it. They couldn't.
So
like it
when
wasn't
you say
theirs.
PGA, you're talking about 10 old white guys in a room in Augusta, Georgia. I mean, when is the PGA thrilled about? When Tiger was fist pumping, his way to 18 majors or whatever it is, they weren't thrilled. I assume they were not thrilled about a black guy leading, the PGA, and they had to pretend to be because he's Tiger Woods. So, Joe, you're talking about these guys in a smoke-filled back room.
Are you saying that, or do you believe that?
No, I'm saying it because I believe it. I believe that the PGA, they're a bunch of stiff, old guys that aren't down with anything new. I mean, when have they ever? I mean. They've never been on like the cutting edge of anything.
Well, golf as a sport doesn't need to be on the. It's barely a sport, and you and I have debated that too, right? Like, if there's no defense, is it a sport, right? And this is kind of like, does it require skill? Yes, right. But is it a sport? Is it a sport?
Yeah.
If there's no one, if I don't know. For me, like, there's something there, right? Like, I don't know. Is curling a sport? Is there defense in curling? Right, like
that's such an arbitrary because there's no defense.
I'm just saying, like, well, yeah, you're competing. You're physically, literally competing against somebody else who's trying to beat you. In golf, it's you versus the course, which is fine, and I'm not taking it away from it. But there is no defense, right? And that's, I just hit a mental block every time this topic comes up. But I'm not debating whether or not it's a sport. I think it's fascinating that players on the tour want to play, obviously to earn more money. But as you said, there is an appeal that comes with the Saudi league or the Saudi course or the Saudi tour or whatever. They're going to be playing the most beautiful courses in the world for money that the PGA cannot pay these guys. It cannot happen stateside. It can't. They just don't have deep enough pockets. So if the Saudis can get, a couple of the Euros and a couple of the Americans to step up and say, we're going to do it anyway. I mean, the Saudis, they got Greg Norman for a reason, right? This is not just, this isn't just some like backroom power play. This is a legitimate thing. And I think the PGA really does have a problem on its hand here because I don't think they can stop them. And what happens if you do? What happens if two guys do actually opt out? To use your LeBron James analogy, what happens if LeBron as a free agent literally signs a deal to go play for the Shanghai Sharks? What does the NBA do at that point? Right? They cannot match the numbers. They can't offer LeBron. No team can offer LeBron what any team in China could offer him, right? Ownership in the team, $100 million a season, that doesn't work in the NBA. So what would the NBA then do, right? And it's not a perfect analogy, but it's similar. What would the NBA do?
I don't know what the NBA would do. NBA would crap themselves all over the bed. But what I will say is, on a macro sense, Brandon,
that's your guy.
What I think we're seeing now is, 20 years ago, when you talk about MJ at his heyday, or 25 years ago, MJ at his heyday, the thought of anything happening outside of the United States would have been laughable, because the U.S. was the only great and greatest superpower in the world. No one was anywhere near. Tony Kukoc coming out of Croatia, it wasn't even a thought to go and do business outside of the United States. Why would you do that? The U.S. is the superpower. To go and sell products to people outside, to gear events or entertainment or exposure, people outside of the country. We never even think about that. But because of the globalization of our world, and the U.S. is falling and the U.S. is standing, having fell, you're seeing an athlete-driven kind of a movement to globalize these games. You see it with LeBron. The NBA, their calling card now is, they even put their numbers out, a number of jerseys sold in China, a number of TV sets that watch the game in China. So everyone is pushing now this globalization. And really, what does it say about our country?
It's more than that, right? You have players that wear equality shoes, right, but won't say a word about actual human rights in China,
except
right?
for Enes Kanter freedom,
right?
Or whatever.
Exactly. But that's exactly the problem the NBA is now dealing with, right? How do you manage both of these things at the same time? The NBA needs China, right? LeBron needs China. The players need China. They're all making more money. Guys, when we were coming up, Stevie, there was two shoe companies, right? You were either Nike or you were Reebok, and then Reebok went away and it was Adidas, and then Adidas went away and it was Dada or whatever. Weber had his own company, right? Dada was the Weber company, and Dunk, I think, was Shaq's company. But now the whole league is either Nilang, which is a Chinese company, or the other one, I'm blanking on the name, that D Wade is with. All of them have Chinese shoe companies, all of them. And that's because they just crush it overseas. They make so much more money overseas. And it's not just the product, right? But it's a fascinating issue that when you kind of look at it from a larger perspective. The Shanghai Sharks legitimately could pay LeBron James, or not. Forget about LeBron James. They could go get a guy like Bradley Beal and offer him $100 million a season, and he would be foolish not to take it, except for the fact that he wants to stay in the NBA, right? And you said it, the Dream Team, 92 Dream Team. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that documentary. These guys they're superstars, man. They were international rock stars, and that's only been compounded now. The difference, of course, is the rest of the world is kind of caught up, and not to pivot too far off the golf thing here, but I do want to just say this too. The Olympics, right? How many minutes of Winter Olympics did you watch?
0.
Stevie? Right?
0.
How upsetting is that? I remember being so excited for and granted the Winter Olympics
it's
and the summer
Winter Olympics.
I know. But in reality, people don't care as much as they used to about these things, right? Because there's too many scandals, there's too much cheating, there's too much doping.
I don't care about the 15-year-old Russian chick that was doping or Chinese, whatever.
Why not?
I don't care about that.
Why are the Americans not allowed to compete in track and field for hitting the bong, but this kid is allowed to because her coach gave her, some heart medication or whatever? Like you can't have that. What Russia is technically banned from the Olympics. They are banned from participating in the Olympics. So what does the IOC allow the Russians to do? They create the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee, which is all Russian athletes to compete because Russia can't compete. You can't have that. You can't have that.
The corruption of the IOC or whatever. If it was,
what about the World Cup? Do you want to talk about that? Well, they should have.
Salt Lake.
Well, your boy Clay's been saying this now. The U.S. should have just said, you know what, we're not participating in any more Chinese Olympics. Okay, they've had like back to back Olympics. We're gonna host alternate like free world Olympics in Utah. Come if you want. Basically,
are we a part of the free world? I don't know.
I mean, he's got a point though. Like, why does China get everything? And why are they snowboarding in the middle of a desert? Like, it's weird. The whole thing is weird.
If we want to get more off topic, we talk about that truck convoy coming to shut down 495.
Oh, from Philly. Yeah.
Ooh, I gotta get into the city early tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done strategically, Stevie, they could literally cripple it's not just DC, they could cripple the East Coast if they really wanted to, right? But the Beltway in particular, I mean, listen, we're not old enough. I mean, you probably remember this. When we were in college, there was a group, I forget, I'm blanking on the name, but there was a group of guys that were basically paid, right? It was part of some political stunt, but they got on the Beltway, they went 4 wide, like literally, they took up all the lanes and they drove the speed limit. And it shut down the it destroyed traffic for like a day and a half. They just kept driving around going the speed limit. If these guys come and actually park on the Beltway, yeah, man, it's game over. Like it's over here.
They'll get arrested within an hour. They'll be out.
Okay, you can arrest 1 or 2 or 5. Look at what's happening in Canada. You can't arrest hundreds. Can't do it. And who's going to tow hundreds of tow trucks or big rigs?
This is right up Brandon's alley. Okay, he'll take care of it.
He's going to firebomb. What is he going to do? He's going to send.
He's got the Scranton.
He's going to send the VP to handle it. What's he going to do? But it is. I mean, it is fascinating, right? I mean, the people in Canada are. I mean, they're beyond fed up. I mean, this is. It is laughable, and not to get political here, but it's laughable that 2 years later, any government still thinks that they can just impose shutdowns at this point. Like, I think all of that is over, man. It's just, or maybe I'm just reinvigorated from spending a weekend in Florida. Maybe
DeSantis country.
Yeah, hey, listen, man, they got something right down there. They got something right.
Don't we have sports to talk about?
What do you want to talk about?
I mean, you missed the All-Star weekend? They don't have the All-Star weekend in Florida?
I didn't watch much of it. I did watch some of it. The dunk contest, it made me sad. I don't know how else to describe it. It just made me sad. Stevie, I remember the 2000 dunk contest like it was yesterday. That was the Vince Carter and Stevie franchise.
You tell me, okay.
Steve Francis got robbed, man. That dude can ball. We got to watch him here up close and personal.
Stevie
obviously,
franchise.
That guy could fly. He was nasty with the ball, and he dunked. He's just ferocious dunker. The problem was Vince Carter was literally putting his arm through the hoop, and then he was doing through the legs off the thing. And T-Mac was out there before T-Mac was T-Mac, tossing him the ball. We've come so far from that. Like, it was so anticlimactic. It was so boring.
It was to the point that I felt like Reggie Miller, I think it was Reggie Miller, and it wasn't Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne Wade was trying to defend the dunk competition. The guys on the telecast were bashing it so much that I felt like there must have been some NBA voices that said, hey, cut that out. Like, you can't bash the event while we're in it, in the middle of it, broadcasting it. I mean, and it was just stating the obvious. Reggie Miller kept on saying you got to end with the 3-point competition. I mean, once again, 3-point competition is must-see TV, and Karl Anthony Towns was awesome. I mean, our boy Razza was telling me yesterday that he was plus 1,200 to win the competition. Okay, and I couldn't believe that. Set shooters always have the advantage, right? The Larry Birds
Larry Bird with the warm-ups. Never
it's
forget.
Legendary.
With the warm-ups.
Legendary. Craig Hodges with the warm-ups. I mean, we remember all this stuff. Even the game, I know a lot of people were messaging today saying the game was great, game was good, but they keep on incentivizing it to get people to play hard. I mean, I remember the days, and you remember this one very well because it was the DC, I think it was 2003, where Mr. Iverson, who was on the telecast last night, and looked like he's put his life back together, which is good to see. Mr. Iverson took over the game in the fourth quarter. It was one of the best finishes. Him and Marbury. Sarbury.
Yeah, I mean, I needed to go back to East versus West. I'm not a fan of the. I'm not a fan of the team this and team that. Although the drafting of the players was great, right? Because it kind of
Harden
because Katie and Harden. But aside from that, and watching LeBron kind of be human and laugh, and everybody just kind of chuckle about it. Like I miss East versus West, man. Like I really do. Like that was something you looked forward to. There was never going to be defense. There wasn't much defense back then either until guys like I remember still when half of the East was the Bulls, right? And they were coached by Phil Jackson. And these guys, I felt like at times the other stars on the East were almost auditioning, right? Like they like this was their opportunity to play with Michael and the Bulls, basically, because you had Scotty and Michael and Dennis and Phil coaching or whatever. It was just, or even with the early 2000s Lakers, like you had Shaq and you had Kobe and again you had Phil, right? And maybe you got Glenn Rice or one of those other pieces that they had there. Like we've come so far even from that sense. Like I really miss that, right? It was an opportunity to see these guys like want to go out and win. And again, going back to that 92 Dream Team, the practice where Coach Daly was just like he was trying to get MJ and Magic to stop going at each other so hard in practice, and now we basically it's 190 to 191, and everyone's like that was a great game. Like it just we've come a long way, and I'm not killing it. I'm not doing the old timer bit, but the East versus West just had it just felt different. It was the way it's supposed to be.
No, my very hot take that is very unpopular that I will give you is after watching that game, after watching the full weekend, I think Steph Curry has ruined the NBA.
Forever.
I mean,
it's not a hot take.
I really do.
It's a fact.
Is fact. Okay, I thought I was, people were salivating over this guy as if, he was named, I think, 16th in the whole 75th, top 75 players of all time. I think he's totally ruined it. I think guys just come in. I watched the rookies versus sophomores. That piece of trash game. I mean, it was ridiculous. Guys just shooting from 50 feet out. It's like 43.
They have an entire contest now with hotspots at half court because of it. Because they pull up at half court. I mean, it's awesome what he's doing, right? But listen, I don't disagree with you at all. When you talk about people that have changed the modern NBA, Michael, Steph Curry. And you could almost argue that Steph Curry's impact today, right now, is more impactful than Michael's, because Michael's was like a global thing. He was more about the marketing. He wasn't the first person to dunk the ball, right? He was the first person to do it with style and swagger. He was the first intensely super awesome all-star that the league had that could fly, so to speak, right? What Steph is doing has literally, you have 7-footers shooting threes at a better
winning
percentage.
The three-point contest.
Right. Centers. Rui here locally in DC. Rui, his entire offseason was just spent shooting three-pointers. And he leads the league now, the Wizards, in three-point percentage, right? You have a guy like Davis Bertans, who obviously now is gone and best of luck elsewhere. He's getting paid $17 million a year because he can stand behind the three-point line and hit shots, theoretically, right? So what Steph Curry has done, I mean, you have people now on a fast break getting the ball with access to the key or whatever, right? They could potentially go in, hard foul, layup, whatever. They pull it back. They pull back and dribble, or they pass it out to the three-point line to get the 3 instead of the 2. It's just amazing because, again, like you were saying, before Steph Curry did what Steph Curry did, right, over the last, let's say, 11 years, there was a team called the Phoenix Suns, right? D'Antoni, Steve Nash, the Matrix, those guys, that's what they did. They had Amari Stoudemire as an undersized center. Everybody just went and shot threes. Tons and tons and tons and tons of threes. At the time, the league didn't like it didn't propel them far because they were the only team doing it. But now the entire team is doing it.
Well, the two things about that is interesting is I think what they did was even based on analytics. If I remember, correctly, D'Antoni would do the analysis of if you shoot, 35% from 3-point range and, you give up 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, but then you get 3.3 point. I mean, like it's a wash essentially, or you come out on top. So,
but you also get more possessions.
Exactly. 7 seconds or less.
Right.
But the only reason it didn't pick up more steam was because the San Antonio Spurs were their roadblock where they never got to the finals because
but the Rockets with Yao Ming, like the leagues, the dominant team still had centers.
Right. Like the league wasn't ready for it back then.
That's right. Like the Suns can go up and down and shoot a zillion threes, but they couldn't defend Shaq or Yao or Duncan or Robinson. Although Robinson I think was gone at that point, but like the league was built differently. But now there's no centers.
The Europeans, and it's the Europeans' fault.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dirk I think was the first modern Euro that I can remember coming over as a 7-footer, as a small forward who shoots threes. Right. I mean, I think he's the first one in my mind, like when I think of it. Right. But there was others before him, like Detlef Schrempf. Right. It was a Euro that was a power forward, super undersized power forward. I mean, even Sam Perkins on the Supersonics team from what was it? I guess it was the late 90s or mid 90s.
Yeah. They
right?
lost 96.
Like they would all shoot threes also, but it was just a very different. Now, literally everybody shoots threes. Like you can't be in the league if you don't shoot threes. Like there's no spot for a guy like Shaq anymore. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. But 190 to 191 or whatever the score was, it was fine. I think for me, the dunk contest, like I said, it was super, just a letdown. Even a couple years ago, the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon dunk contest, which was amazing, right? Like it seems like every 5 or 6 years we get a really, really good one, and then there's just a bunch of stinkers in between them. But the big takeaway for me, Stevie, and I don't know if you heard the soundbite from LeBron, was him kind of laying the groundwork to return yet again to Cleveland. Did you pick up on that?
No, I mean I saw him gift.
It was one of those. It was during one of the pregame interview sessions or something, and they were talking about like obviously the game going back to Cleveland. The Cleveland was hosting the All-Star. By the way, I thought it rotated through all the cities. Cleveland has had it like 5 times in 15 years. I don't know how that works, but they have 2 All-Stars on the Mobley's a first-time All-Star and Garland, and they were asking LeBron about it, and LeBron said, well, and they'll always have me. Right. And then, of course, now people are running with that, too. Like maybe he's setting things up now for a return, one final return to Cleveland to kind of end things. But then when he was asked about it, he said whatever he wants to end his season. He wants his last season to be with his son, regardless of where his son goes. He'll play for free, basically, because like who else? What a unique opportunity. That's kind of cool, I guess. But Cleveland,
You were probably sitting on a beach on Friday night, but I watched the skills competition or whatever they're calling it, and the Antetokounmpos or whatever.
All of them.
These guys. Hey, Giannis is actually my favorite player now from a personality standpoint. I mean, that dude just plays hard. No matter. I mean, you could tell he was salty about losing to the rookie group or I think they played the Cleveland group or whatever, and then he had his brothers, like some, I guess some backup in Milwaukee. And then the other brothers, like some G League, D League guy. And Giannis is a good dude. Giannis always plays hard.
Yeah, he's not getting, ironically, he's a superstar who's not getting not enough primetime love for him, right? Like he's still not, champion. He is, but he's not super marketable, and that's kind of a problem for the NBA right now, right? Like the NBA, they struggled getting LeBron over when he as a West Coaster, right? When he's in the East Coast, Cleveland was on in every early game, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. Like they don't really have that now, and Giannis is a hard sell still, even though he's a good dude, and I think maybe he's I guess next up, right? I mean Harden kind of poo-pooed his chances at being, the face of the league. He can't be the face of the league. But I don't know.
Harden?
Yeah, he can't.
No, I think the one who, I guess Joel Embiid is the front runner for MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the personality too. He's charismatic. He's funny. Can be serious.
In a city that loves basketball, right? I mean, the league needs Philly to not suck, right? So, and then they have.
Where's Pete from Philly?
He's in my text messages, just complaining. That's where he is.
Come on, Pete.
Yeah.
Give me a little Philly special here.
That guy.
I know he's listening.
He is listening. He's always listening. We appreciate that for sure. I actually call him from time to time and we get into it and he tells me how wrong I am on everything. And then I invite him to come on the show, Stevie, and he's of course says no. So it's usually how those conversations go. But, just to kind of put a final thought on the NBA, like the dunk contest, I don't know how they can bring it back. Like once upon a time, they tried to, recreate a dunk from the past. That didn't really work. Then they tried, you can have props and whatever. And that was kind of cool, I guess, for a minute. But like, at some point, do you think you just run out of dunks to do? Like, at what point, like, once upon a time, J.R. Ryder put the ball between his legs and it was like, it opened up like Pandora's box into a whole brave new world of stuff that you can do. And then Dwight started raising the hoop and Vince obviously jumped through it. And like, people have done crazy things, but at some point, do we just get to like there's a couple guys that jumped over cars. At what point do we just say there's nothing left to do?
Where it could get to is, you just alluded to it, is raising the hoop. Just keep on going. And that's it.
Just take turns 11, like 15, 12, 13, 16, 14.
Yeah, see if you can get to like 15, 16 feet.
And I'd watch that.
It's not subjective, is what I'm saying. All these stupid scoring things, it's so stupid when they give them these guys these 10s.
Yo, we should
9s.
Pitch that. That's a good idea.
That's just, it's play, and it's quick. It's quick. It's just one after the other. 15 feet, go.
Or just raise it and then get all the guys competing on the court at the same time and just say whoever dunks the most balls at 13 feet, the top two guys move on to the next round. And just
that would be exhausting.
Fun to watch, though.
That's what I'm saying, is that would be a real competition. I mean, you're right. It wouldn't just be one dunk at 14 feet or whatever.
Yeah, go.
But it'd be interesting to see if Ja Morant could get to 17 feet.
Yo, low key, next superstar.
I think he's a current superstar. I mean,
no, like face of the league type. I think the league can market him. They got to get him out of that small market. But
the problem is, and this goes back to the Super Bowl. I know we closed up the Super Bowl discussion, but it's such a celebrity-driven society where we were just bashing Instagram off of the podcast here a couple minutes before we jumped on. I mean, it's such we sound like the old grumpy men in the room, but like it's such a celebrity-driven culture where you look at the sidelines of the game. I don't listen to rap, and so I couldn't identify, any of those guys, maybe except for Robert Kraft if he was there, if he was Meek Mill's guest or whatever. But it just seems like it's such an easy way to, like, you want to spice things up, do a commercial, and instead of just getting an actor, get a celebrity, right? It's this easy out. And so you ask, where's these competitions headed? That's where it is. Maybe they'll do, obviously, the celebrity game, right? It's so stupid. I got to watch Justin Bieber, try to play basketball.
He can play ball.
It's so stupid.
He can play.
Bieber.
Was it Jason Garrett that was dunking the ball too? It's going bananas.
It's Miles Garrett. If Jason Garrett was doing it, not Jason.
No, not Jason. Okay. Not Jason Garrett.
I would pay to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. Stevie, I'm sitting here thinking about this raising the hoop bit. I think that could be the bit. Right, just get these guys out there.
My Ronnie Mervis idea with the Commander.
Yo, you caused the firestorm. We're 2 weeks on now. Your idea actually made local radio this week. There was a segment. We're not gonna name which show, but it was definitely a segment. Somebody listened to this show and used your line on their show and did a whole thing about the local zillionaires that could potentially buy the team. And Ronnie Mervis, yeah.
I'll be in the market soon for a next engagement ring, and I'll get it from Mervis. I promise you, okay?
Well, when you go in there, talk to Ronnie. Talk to him. Yeah, I think your pitch was perfect, right? The season tickets will sell themselves, right? A little something for him and a little something for her, right? It just works out perfectly. Yeah, but
we got nothing else to talk about. Baseball's not happening.
We got to talk about baseball. We got to talk about what the Nats attempted to do with your boy Juan Soto. They made a pitch. It was not received positively by Scott Boras and company, and that was it. That's all I got. Although my theory is that if no matter what they offered, Scott and Juan were going to say no matter what. So this is it wasn't a real offer. It was an offer, but not like a real offer. I think if you do the math on it, it puts him somewhere around like 17, 18 million a season or something in that range, right? Because it was over 13 years, if I'm not mistaken. But, what do they do from here is the question. Because they got to lock him up. They got to lock him up.
Yeah, let's just level set for anybody who wasn't following. A story came out that before the lockout happened, the Nats made a quiet hush offer to Juan Soto to extend him for 13 years, $350 million. So it's more. It's in like the 27 million a year range, which average annual value is nothing compared to some of these other guys, including Bryce Harper, Mike Trout. These guys are in the mid 30s. And so you're right basically on everything you just said. It was an offer that wasn't really an offer. I am pretty confident, having had coffee with Mike Rizzo a few times, that it was never meant to get out. It was never meant.
Yeah, well, Mike doesn't like that stuff out. Mike doesn't. The Nats don't leak that stuff unless it's strategic.
It's embarrassing. Because it's embarrassing.
But the Nats have been. You couldn't see the Nats doing this, Stevie, leaking it out, be like, look, hey, we tried.
No, because that's not a real attempt, and everybody knows it's not a real attempt. Boris knows that. Everybody knows that. And so what it was, hey, there's a lockout about to happen. Maybe Soto will freak out and think the CBA is going to change dramatically. Players' ability to get contracts are going to change dramatically. So why don't we try to lock him in before the uncertainty of a lockout happens and take our shot and try to save about $100 million, kind of letting out my punchline for where I think he's going to land. And so I don't think they ever meant to get it out. Soto leaked it himself in an interview, I think with The Athletic or with another publication. So he's the one who outed the Nats. The Nats never did anything about it. If we believe that to be true, do we think he did it with intent or not
just
intentionally? No.
He's a nice dude. I just think it came up and he just mentioned it, and
I think he's a 24-year-old who was asked a question. And again, his brother, we've covered here on the show, his brother signed with the Nationals a couple months ago, or at least about a month ago, after agreeing to terms with the Mets, or after potentially agreeing with them.
So what's a real offer? I mean, I have a number where I think if they put it in front of him, he would be foolish not to take it. But I'm curious if you have a number as well.
But the other point I want to make, just because nuance is important here and context is important. The Nats are famous or infamous for having deferred contracts, right?
Yeah.
And so they have a 13-year contract that they pay out over 30 years. And that's why Bryce Harper hates it, why Rendon hated it. That's why all these guys hated it, because it's deferred money, right? And so you're an economist just like all of us, Joe, is that $1 today is more valuable than $1 tomorrow, right? And so the Nats have always tried to leverage these deferred contracts. The interesting thing about the Soto contract is there was no deferred money. It was pure 13 years, $350 million. And so it does show a bit of goodwill and effort on their part from that standpoint. Now, Mike Trout did I'm going to need a fact checker here, but I know that the number was 426. I think it was 13 years. So if I did 426, it's about 33 million a year. I think Soto's going to hit.
Yeah.
Was it 13 years?
I'm looking for the years. I see the 426.5 million.
It was either 12 or 13. May have been 13.
16. Hold on.
No, it couldn't have been 16. I think it was.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes is 10 years. Well, it's a different sport, I know, but I mean, his contract is bananas too.
Yeah, I know Bryce was 13 for 330 or something like that. And then Trout just blew him out of the water. Trout may have been a 12-year. He's a little bit older.
12-year. 426.
12-year, 426. So that's
36.
Average annual value of a little over 35.5 million per year.
Mm-hmm.
If Soto hits 460, but Soto is going to be younger than Trout when he hits the free agent market. So if they give him 13 years, he's at 35.3 million average annual value, right on par with Trout, a little bit less, and he gets another year.
So just tell me, what are you offering? You're a Rizzo. You want this done. What are you offering?
I offer 460
for
13 years.
So I was going to say just 400 for 10. Why does it need to be 13?
Because he's younger.
But it gives.
He's younger.
Isn't it?
He's going to hit the free agent market.
Yeah, he'll have 2 contracts in him instead of 1. But it's more money. Like I'm saying, if you want him to sign, just sign. Don't think you want. And obviously you're dealing with Scott Boras as well. $40 million puts him way over everybody else.
That's true.
400, 10 years, straight math.
I think it's a more team-friendly contract to get him at the lower average annual value, of course, and lock him in for longer.
Sure.
Because he's going to be good for that many years.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I just don't think he's going to jump on a 13. That's what Scott Boras does, right? He's looking at it and saying, well, if we can shorten the duration, right, then we can. If he's going to want his number, but he's going to want less years, right? Because that allows him to do one more, right? It's kind of like the A-Rod bit, right? A-Rod got 3 monster contracts during his career.
But now, again, Juan Soto is the exact, and we know this, is the exact opposite personality of a Bryce Harper. For Bryce, it was very important to set that record, which ironically, and what's funny about it is he said it for all of, I think, 2 days until Mike Trout blew him out of the water. But to get that bottom line number at 330 as the highest paid contract was important for Bryce. Now, is it important for Juan to be the first $500 million contract, $500 million contract in sports? Maybe. I don't know him that well.
It's important for Scott.
I was going to say, okay, you're right. I mean,
and the Yankees, there are teams that will come and pay it. Right? If he puts up the numbers that you just mentioned, right? If he stays on par with what he's been doing so far in his career, he's worth it.
Well, if he hit 500 mil over 13 years, he'd have a less average annual value than what you just offered him.
Of course.
What you just offered him is a massive contract.
Yeah, which he would be foolish to not accept, right? Because no one's going to jump $5 million per. Like that's a huge jump, right? Like you said, Bryce was beat by $2 million. Not even actually, it was like one and change on an annual basis.
The learners won't offer this. I think that's the bottom line. I think.
Well, and that's the problem, right? And when we talk about the learners, this is what always comes up, right? I mean, the only player that has survived the learners and come out really, shiny on the other end is Zim. He's the only one, right? Look at the cast of studs that have come and gone because they couldn't get the contract structured properly. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. I mean, Strasburg maybe is the other one, right? Strauss is still here and he's still getting paid. But everybody else, they get to this point and the learners just don't want to pay. And it's, I don't know. We should talk about Zim for a second too. I mean, I'll tell you, for me, I'll speak for myself. Like when DTC was first just kind of taking shape and it was just a dream and we're going to do this podcast and a website and we're going to see if we can get credentialed and blah, blah, blah. He was one of the first to actually talk to us, and he was all about I don't think we explained the name, but he didn't really care. He was a cool dude, man. Like we were out there during BP and he was just talking. Like he was totally fine. He was, just happy to chop it up with us. I think him and was it Jason Worth?
Jason Worth, yeah.
It was Game of Thrones. We were talking about everything. We were talking about Game of Thrones. We were talking about whatever it was.
Worth. We should get Jason Worth on the show right now.
I'd love to.
He's
I'd
around.
love to.
I think he's chilling in McLean. I've heard that his kid is playing up in McLean.
Yeah, I mean, what was your reaction when Zim called it a career?
Surprise, I would say. Again, because I did not expect him to announce his retirement, especially before, just from a baseball standpoint, they decided on the DH rule.
Yeah.
Because I think we probably talked about this, off camera, is that if DH moves to the NL, which we all know is coming, and I think is essentially settled science at this point, Zim could play for another 10 years. I mean, that guy can rake. I mean, he can hit the ball. He just can't field. He just can't throw. He just can't do anything. That's why they hide him at first base now. But, he could have had a really long career, relatively speaking, as a DH and as a productive DH. And so for him to call it quits, I think also Zim's a smart guy. He's obviously a UVA guy. I think he's a business guy. Obviously owns a Salt Line restaurant.
Sound like Joe Gibbs. Super smart.
Super smart. He owns the Salt Line, which I know they just expanded to Arlington, restaurant down in Navy Yard. I think he's got some larger aspirations, and I think that's kind of where his head and heart were. And so I think he'll be a part of the organization. I at the very least, a ceremonial kind of guy, very much like a Theismann-esque guy, for the Commanders, without letting all the team secrets and all the, the mess ups and screw ups. But, Zim's going to be a guy that's just around the park. He's going to be at batting practice, like we were talking, mentoring the younger guys, sitting in the owner's box, hanging out with Rizzo, until he may become a front office guy down the road. And I think he'd be a great, front office guy. He'll just be really a team ambassador. And I think it's a perfect role for him. He's very involved in the local communities here in Arlington, McLean, Northern Virginia, DC. Just a good guy. And obviously, he was instrumental in that World Series. I mean, it was fitting, some of the things he did. I remember he hit the bomb, I think. It's going to test my memory now. Damn, he had a 3-run bomb.
Game 5.
I think in the World Series. Well, we lost 2, 3, and 4. We lost 3, 4, and 5. I can't remember, but he had a bomb in Nats Park that electrified the crowd. And we don't remember how great he was in his younger days.
He was also positive and forthcoming and transparent and honest for years when the team was not good, right? And he was one of the guys in the clubhouse that helped. I mean, look at how many careers he helped.
Sorry, he hit a bomb in Game 4 against the Dodgers. We were down 2-1. He hit a bomb. We won that game.
Did you pull that or did you look it up?
I did not look it up. I vividly remember it now. He hit a bomb to dead center. Anybody can fact check me on that. And then we went to Game 5, and Howie Kendrick hit the grand slam.
Can I get back to my point, please? Please. What I was saying was he helped launch dozens of other careers around him of guys that are still getting it done today, right?
Yep.
Tony Two Bags. Like, there's so many guys. That's just one of my favorites, right? But even Bryce.
Even Bryce.
Worse came, at a time towards the end of his career, but still there was more he could do here. Like, the team was better having Zim around. Period. Always. Right. And it's he goes down obviously as the first and longest tenured and probably will remain the longest tenured Nat for a long, long time. I mean, maybe hopefully Soto, challenges that over the coming, decade or so. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to miss seeing him like, at BP and just kind of around again. Like, he was always really friendly to us and I'll miss that for sure. But he was also really good on, he's really good on just, I don't know. Him and Max are the two guys that, for me, fit the description of some, of what you just described, or kind of like when you think about somebody just hanging out in the box, or picking apart the young guys' game, or getting down and kind of mixing it up in the clubhouse, or just talking to the younger guys. Those are the two that always stand out, and I think Max will eventually end up here in some type of front office capacity as well. I miss him, to be very honest. I know you're.
Yeah.
I know.
You'll see. Hey, you'll see him.
Hopefully there's a season. We're here. There's no sports now. We just got the NBA. Like, there's nothing going on.
As we're speaking, and I haven't been on Twitter while we've been talking, but the MLB and the MLB Players Association have been meeting for hours, apparently, down in Florida.
They got to go.
And Chelsea Jane has been,
they got to wrap it up, Stevie. We're not gonna have a season like this. They gotta get it moving here.
Well, I think that it's been determined that would be disastrous by everybody who's kind of agreed.
When was the last big lockout? Was it the 94? 96?
No. The big one was 94, and that lasted quite a while. But
that's the one that set the league back like 10 years, and it wasn't until the Sosa McGuire home run, chase, where fans really kind of came back in droves. I think there was another Lockout though.
Yes, I think in the early 2000s or 2000.
But it was short.
I mean, this one cannot be anything. I mean, they just got to get it done.
Yeah.
And they will. They will.
I think they will too. There's too much money at stake. I think they will too. I have one more topic for you. Have you watched?
It looks like Russia went to war while we were talking.
Right now?
Looks like it.
Okay.
Looks like it.
So would this be the wrong time to ask you if you've seen the Tinder swindler?
Therein lies the problem with the American society.
I didn't want to watch it, Stevie, but I couldn't turn it off. Because
that stuff hits a little too close to home these days. Like I couldn't watch it.
So I'll give you the full context. I sat down. I was like, I don't want to watch the Wizards lose. So let me find something else to watch. And as I was flipping through, Netflix and Hulu and whatever, my wife walked in and she was like, everyone at my office is talking about this Tinder swindler thing. Have you seen it? I said, no, I haven't. I have no interest. She's like, can we just watch like the first 5 minutes? An hour and a half later, I get up and I'm like, the guy is a scumbag. Like he's a scumbag through and through, but he's also a genius. I need you to watch it so we can actually discuss it because it's not on the level of the Fire Fraud, like the Fire Festival documentary, or even Malice in the Palace for me, but it's fascinating what he was able to get away with. And there was no punishment, which is also fascinating.
I mean, he was on Tinder the day the movie came out, or the documentary came out.
He's on Tinder now.
No. He got booted.
No, he's back. As of like Thursday last week, he's on it. With his name, with his actual name. And he's like a professional coach or something now. Like a life coach, I think. You need to watch it.
I'm putting it on my list.
Please. I need you to watch it. Any final thoughts, Stevie? Besides war?
No, the world is falling apart.
That's it. We're gonna end the show with that.
Hopefully we can provide a little bit of a diversion from all the craziness. No, hey, I mean, we're not to get heavy here, but I know people are going through a lot of stuff, and so nice to come on here and take a break from there's a bunch of serious stuff, and we always acknowledge that, and we never pretend that that stuff isn't real, and there's a lot of people hurting, but we come here and try to have some fun and create a little diversion for people.
Well, and for ourselves too. I mean, it's
for ourselves too.
For ourselves too. Yeah. Okay. Well, until the next one then, Stevie. But look, you got to watch the Tinder Swindler. I need to break it down with you. I know LP and FP have seen it, but I need you to see it because we need to have like a 3-4 person like roundtable discussion. I think Razzle's seen it already too. Because I want to pose a question to the group, right? And maybe I'll put this out there now so everybody can start thinking of it. Who is one person in our social circle that we know well? Yeah. Who's the one guy that could pull this off?
I think we were talking about him.
Don't say it. Don't say it yet.
No, I'm not going to say a name, but we
were
talking about somebody before we jumped off.
I'd like to get that person. I'd like to get that individual at least to listen, or maybe put him in the green room so you can hear the show as it happens. But that's the question I'm going to throw out to you, to Razzle, to whoever else is on that show when we record. I think there's one front runner for Tinder Swindler. Somebody who could do it in our social circle, and it would be fascinating to kind of see if we all land on the same person. But anyway, for now, Stevie, let's put a bow on the show. My name is Joe. His name is Stevie. This is Defeating the Curse, DTC. You can find the show on every social media platform, on every podcast platform. Go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like. Thank you for hanging out with us. The show will be available immediately on wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check out the Contender Network. Big thanks to them for carrying this show live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and for all their support, honestly, to help us get up and running and to expand our audience base. We really appreciate everything that the Contender Network has done. If you don't have the Contender Network on your phone, on your smartphone, just download it. Contender with a K, download it. Tons of local DC-specific content, Chicago-specific content, and national breaking news as well. Our buddy Bill Rowland hosts a show on The Contender. The DC Crossover podcast is on the Contender Network. There's quite a few DC-specific people that you know, that you love, that you want to listen to, break down DC sports and DC happenings, including, of course, our show, Defeating the Curse. So until next time, thanks again for hanging out with us. For Stevie, my name is Joe. We are out.